She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA.
What Rebecca Lobo just said about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA officiating is absolutely eye-opening, and it's something the league can no longer ignore. In the aftermath of the Fever vs. Sun game, we witnessed yet another glaring example of poor officiating, but this time, it happened under the brightest spotlight yet thanks to the undeniable power of the Caitlin Clark effect. Rebecca, a WNBA legend, pulled back the curtain on what's being said behind closed doors, and her comments strike deeper than any surface-level criticism. This isn't just about bad calls, it's about a growing concern that if the league doesn't act, it could do real damage to the WNBA's future. And the most troubling part? It seems the league still hasn't learned how to handle its biggest star.
The nerve, the second-year players clearing out that side of the floor, shooting on Stewie, and then watch the reaction with one another. Stewie's laughing.
As I write this, Caitlin Clark's triumphant return was only a few games ago and she made it unforgettable. She dropped 25 points in the first half, including 3 logo range bombs in just 38 seconds. That explosive stretch didn't just remind fans what they'd been missing, it reminded the entire league exactly who's driving the bus.
And Cunningham is down behind the play, but they've got Caitlin Clark. 2 players with incredible up. Clark, another long 3. She's back!
She's back, and this was the statement of all statements. The game that made everything crystal clear. The WNBA doesn't just benefit from Caitlin Clark, it relies on her. Those 5 games she missed weren't just a brief stumble, they were an exposure. Viewership dropped, social engagement plummeted, and national interest flatlined. Suddenly, every WNBA storyline without Caitlin felt like background noise.
But here we go with Caitlin Clark, singularly, being missing for the time she was gone, and ratings tanking, 50% in some cases. And then also she comes back and reminds everyone how spectacular she is, and everybody's talking about the WNBA. So if you needed to sort of have it affirmed to you that it is just her, that the singularity of her is what we are talking about, and her star power, you got it with this absence and then the way she came back.
After weeks of crashing ratings and mounting pressure, Caitlin Clark's return didn't just boost the Fever, it lifted the entire WNBA. Their game against the Liberty peaked at 2.8 million viewers, making it one of the most-watched WNBA broadcasts ever. For perspective, the NHL's Stanley Cup Finals averaged 2.5 million viewers. And while comparing hockey to basketball isn't a perfect apples-to-apples matchup, the reality is this. Caitlin Clark just outdrew a century-old men's league during its championship round. That's not normal. And while the magnitude of that moment seems to have flown right over the heads of WNBA leadership, which we'll get into in a minute, it hasn't been lost on Rebecca Lobo. An Olympic gold medalist, Basketball Hall of Famer, and one of ESPN's most measured voices, Lobo recently broke down just how seismic Clark's return truly was before even getting to her powerful comments on the state of WNBA officiating.
Rebecca, tell me, what does Clark's return mean for the WNBA?
Well, I mean, it means a lot more people are paying attention once again. We know how much Caitlin drives ratings. We know how much Caitlin drives attention on the WNBA. And for her to come back and do it in that way was just ridiculous.
Notice what Rebecca Lobo said, people are watching again. It's a subtle phrase, but it says everything, because if people are watching again, it means they stopped watching. And we all know exactly when that happened, when Caitlin Clark was out. But Lobo didn't stop there. She went on to break down exactly why the moment Clark returned, viewers came flooding back.
I'm sitting there at the end of the first quarter when she had that 38-second stretch where she drained deep 3 after deep 3 after deep 3. I was just sitting there thinking, I've been around this league since 1997. I have never seen that in a WNBA game. Have we seen players go on runs? Of course we have, but not like that. Not where a couple of the three-pointers are from 30-plus feet. It was an exhibition by her.
That's the thing, these weren't your standard long 2s or even deep 3s. These were logo bombs from another zip code. Few, if any, players can hit those shots consistently, let alone make it look effortless. That's exactly why fans tune in. Even Natasha Cloud, who hasn't exactly had glowing things to say about Caitlin's fanbase, had to admit the truth. You have to guard her the moment she crosses half court. That's not normal. Just ask Rebecca Lobo.
It was just ridiculous. It's not often that you're watching the WNBA or that I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, I've just never seen this before.
All of this makes what's been happening not just since Caitlin's return, but honestly throughout last season and now into this one especially concerning. Because at this point, we're not just talking about missed calls or tough defense. We're talking about a pattern. A pattern that's become so obvious, so blatant, that even longtime WNBA insiders like Rebecca Lobo are stepping up and speaking out. And that game against the Sun? That should have sent shivers down the league's spine.
This angle is wild, folks. There's the eye gouge. Watch Mabry. Boom! I mean, come on.
JCS, Sheldon, and Marina Mabry basically tag-teamed Caitlin Clark mid-game, first a claw to the face, then a full-on body check to the court, and somehow, neither of them got ejected. And look, this isn't about pretending Caitlin wasn't chirping a bit with JCS earlier, she was. But trash talk isn't a license to assault someone. You can't just knock the face of the league to the ground like it's WWE and expect it to fly. Even the commentators were stunned. You could hear it in their voices. They expected an ejection. And across the league, the reaction was the same. Coaches, analysts, fans, even players were all shocked by what went down.
Hey, we would have been crashing our team.
Courtney, if somebody ever tackles you like that,
Nobody would ever tackle me like that. They would play with Bridget like that, and then we would have to like take it up there.
okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying.
Nobody would ever play with me like
If
that.
that ever happened, you better crash out behind me, because I'm crashing out behind you. We can share the same jail cell.
Now, of course, the face claw and shove on Caitlin was the viral moment, the clip everyone's talking about, but it wasn't some isolated flash of chaos. That moment was the culmination of tension that had been building all game long. And the refs, they were just letting it slide.
This is JC Sheldon right here with an entire handful of Caitlin Clark's shoulder and bicep, and she's twisting it. Okay? I mean, this is wild. Here's the zoomed out look, the snapshot. I mean, this league does not have control of its players.
The chippiness went from a simmer to a full-on boil fast. And of course, Stephanie White was livid after the game. You could see it in her body language before she even said a word. She sat down, took a breath, and then absolutely unloaded.
You know, the game has changed so much. Players are faster, they're better, they're bigger, they're stronger. You know, they're as good as they've ever been. They're as athletic as they've ever been. The game is fast now. Things are happening quickly. Everybody's getting better, except the officials.
So yeah, that's about as harsh as you can roast the refs without actually naming names. We're all getting better, and you aren't. It's brutal, and it cuts straight to the heart of what so many players, coaches, and fans have been feeling. And here's the thing. This didn't start with the Sun game. It's been building all season, the missed calls, the inconsistency, and the way players like Caitlin Clark are being officiated differently. And not in a protective way.
What was that play? Oh my god, this is rigged. This is rigged. She got yanked, fell on her hip. That's a hack! That's a hack! That's a hack! Oh my god, they hacked the one upon her and they hacked Caitlin Clark. They are both hacks. They are both hacks. They hacked Fever twice, and then there was a phantom foul called on Sabrina Ionescu.
From the preseason, it was already clear the Fever weren't getting the calls. But it all came to a head during their 90-88 loss to the Liberty, a game that became a boiling point for both fans and players. The officiating that night felt blatantly one-sided. Ticky-tack fouls were being handed to New York, while Indiana couldn't buy a whistle. The free throw disparity was glaring. Liberty piled up the attempts, while the Fever barely got to the line. But what truly set people off were the questionable calls or total lack of them in the final minutes. The worst came on the final possession. Caitlin Clark was clearly fouled by Natasha Cloud, unable to even get a shot off. Replay after replay showed it. Social media erupted. Analysts called it out. Fans were furious. And Stephanie White, she went off. It was a game and a moment that might cost the WNBA far more than just a win or loss. If you're still here, drop it in the comments to let me know. Thanks for watching. See you next time.